Ni lo he escuchado. La verdad no me voy a rebajar digo, ya me comentaron, ¿no? Que dijo cosas horribles. No me voy a rebajar. Ha sido campeón mundial de los 4 organismos, ya 12 años. Es la estructura. Y si él toma sus decisiones, ese es su derecho. Y lo que él diga es cuestión de lo que él va a decir. No va a encontrar en el Consejo Mundial de Boxeo un rival para pelear, definitivamente.
Mauricio Sulaimán has publicly responded to Terence Crawford's rant and made it clear the door is closed. Sulaiman said he would not lower himself by replying personally to Crawford's insults, stating the sanctioning body had enforced its rules and wouldn't reverse the stripping.
Un organismo que representamos el mundo. El Consejo Mundial es el mundo, es la voz del boxeo mundial. Y hay reglas, hay procedimientos, hay estructura. Y ha pasado que boxeadores se quieren salir de la estructura que los llevaron a lo que son, y pues eso a mí no me tiene preocupado. Mira lo que ha sido la convención, es y será siempre el Consejo Mundial de Boxeo, el organismo para el peleador. Entonces, no puede haber nadie por encima del organismo, de la ley, del reglamento y de lo que es correcto y justo.
He criticized the lack of payment and communication, noted Crawford received multiple reminders, and emphasized that compliance with sanctioning rules applies to all champions equally. Sulaiman added that the WBC would not accept Crawford back. The decision stands regardless of Crawford's fame or past legacy.
Es que no sé qué he dicho, solamente me han comentado que muy feo, y no me voy a poner a leer. Mira, he recibido miles de mensajes positivos, miles de momentos positivos. Me voy a poner a ver uno negativo. No, hombre, lo respeto, es peleador, lo queremos. Le hicimos una plataforma increíble en esta última pelea con el Canelo, ese anillo, ese cinturón, la escala. No, hombre, no voy a desperdiciar tanto tiempo valioso en lo negativo cuando hay tanto positivo.
Mauricio, hay campeones del mundo que tienen mucho más méritos, mucho más campeonatos y se apegan al reglamento del consejo si quieren disputar el título del consejo.
Sí, Mohamed Ali, él no. Cuando él perdió con Spinks, el retador oficial era Larry Holmes, y él decidió pelear contra Spinks la revancha, y el consejo no reconoció esa pelea. Al Canelo Alvarez, cuando no peleó con Golovkin, se le quitó el título. Entonces, no puede haber nadie por encima del organismo, de la ley, del reglamento y de lo que es correcto y justo.
Terence Crawford had previously replied to Mauricio Sulaiman's decision to strip him of the WBC title with visible anger and blunt language, declaring that the belt meant little compared with his legacy, and accusing the WBC leadership of showing its real face.
Don't tell me, I ain't even apologize. Like, who the f you think I am? Boy, you better slap your self and ass shit. Fuck you talking about pay you $300,000. You know, I see Mauricio, you know, got a lot to say about me not paying him $300,000 plus another $100K something for sanction fees, right?
Crawford clarified that he would not submit to what he referred to as unequal demands by informing Sulaiman and the organization that they could have the physical belt should they want it, but that his status as the best fighter in the sport could not be stolen by a bookkeeping organization.
What makes you so motherfucking better than any of the other sanction bodies? Huh? Answer that question. What makes you better than the WBO, the IBF, or the WBA.
Terence Crawford was a very outspoken person towards the WBC that he challenging their authority and the worth of their sanctioning fees. He expressed that he had followed his responsibilities and that all other people were willing to agree to his condition, but he believed he was targeted and was being discriminated against by the WBC. The remarks made by Crawford were based on his attitude that the organization was placing too much emphasis on their so-called green belt, which he did not see as significant as the actual championship.
Nobody accepted what I was giving them. But you, the WBC, think that you better than everybody, don't you? So since you, the WBC, and you got the green belt, which don't mean it, real belt is the ring belt, which is free, motherfucker. What are you talking about?
Terence Crawford did carry on with his rant against the BC, claiming his frustration with what he perceived as the unfair treatment and high charges. He lamented the fact that the organization required more than other sanctioning agencies because he was the one who was putting his life on the line in the ring, not the organization. Crawford purchased the belt as a simple reward and wondered why he still needed to pay just to be allowed to fight in their name when what he really needed was the fighters.
You want me to pay you more than the other sanction bodies because you feel like you better than them. How in the world all the sanction bodies agreed to the same amount, but you sit your ass up there and say that I need to apologize to you? What? You can take in belt. It's a trophy anyway. I'm paying you every time I step foot in.
Whereas Mauricio Sulaimán clarified that Terence Crawford showed no apology and never replied prior to being stripped of the title by the WBC, claiming that the champion was unresponsive to any line of communication. Sulaiman said the move was made after Crawford defaulted on several fights by failing to pay sanctioning fees, and when contacted, he did not even say sorry.
He did not comply with the rules. Then he moves up to super middle and makes the fight of the century, beats Canelo, makes $50 million or around that. The WBC absolutely is not going to charge 3% of such an amount. We made a very clear 0.6%, which is $300,000, with $225,000 going to the Jose Sulaiman Boxers Fund, which is to help former fighters in need.
According to him, the WBC had been behind Crawford during his career, and the situation was saddening. Sulaiman claimed that the organization had no other option but to apply its rules, but he acknowledged that it was a sad experience to eliminate a Crawford champion of his caliber. Boxing politics are now a subject of serious concern due to the controversy.
It is just regrettable, not even a thank you or I'm sorry, taking a different route. No response. I wish him the best. But this is not. The WBC is huge, it's great. It's about greatness, and I'm relieved, to tell you the truth.
Crawford had been exposing the way the WBC president refused to give him his belt personally after his fight. He told him that it had to be handed over to him by someone since Sulaiman was too embarrassed to face it. And he said, "It's crazy that Chico Lopez had to deliver me my belt after the fight because the WBC was too shameful to personally give it to me himself, but I should be thanking him for a bill. Okay, I'm done." Furthermore, Crawford responded to allegations that he accepted some conditions with WBC. He clarified that he and his team had never believed anything the organization was purporting he to believe. He wanted the fans to know that the story that was being promoted was not true and that he never lied. He added, "Let's make things very clear. I never agreed to anything with WBC on anything, nor did my team. So stop the cap with that narrative. I've always been a man of my word." He also admired the fighters of the past and the legends before him. He said that he always credited those who made the way, but he said Floyd Mayweather would be the only one to give him real trouble due to his intelligence. He concluded the message by sweeping aside additional discussion. He clarified, writing, "I pay homage to the ones before me, but Mayweather is the only one I would have had problems with because of his mind. And I'm done talking about it. Go argue with your mama." The official explanation provided by the World Boxing Council to take away the WBC super-middleweight title of Crawford was that the latter did not pay the required sanctioning fees relating to his high-profile matches, most notably his fight against Canelo Alvarez Alvarez in September, WBC President Mauricio Sulaimán declared that the organization had been demanding fee payments on several successive contests with titles, and that it received no reply to messages in the Crawford camp. On the other hand, Tim Bradley provided a better perspective of the situation by making it look like something far more significant than sanction fees and the money that Crawford earned. He claimed that the truth behind the scenes was none other than Hamza Shiraz.
Yo, Tim Desert Storm Bradley, you already know the damn rest. Hey, oh, this Terence Crawford is going on. But they all missing it. He missing it too. This ain't about no damn WBC. I'm gonna keep it a buck with you. Oh, I want y'all to think, man. I told y'all, this the channel to make y'all think. This about Hamza Shiraz. It's about him getting a strap. That's what this is about.
According to Bradley, politics were never absent in boxing, and this action did not seem like an immediate response to Crawford, but rather an attempt to boost Shiraz since a strong individual was obviously behind him and aimed to have Shiraz promoted. To Bradley, it was not a personal decision, it was strategic positioning the fighter they were nurturing to that #1 position.
Whose guy is that? Who guy is that? Think about it. That's what this is about. It ain't about the money. It's about Hamza Shiraz. It's about Shiraz getting that belt. Yeah, without having to go through Crawford. That's what this is about. Oh, think about it. Anyways, that's my time. Tim Desert Storm Bradley, you already know the damn rest.
It is estimated that the amount paid to the Canelo fight was about $300,000 with adjustments, which the WBC said was normal practice in its involvement and support of the organization of a championship fight. Having a balance outstanding with an unsatisfactory reply, the WBC declared that it would simply pay no longer and would get ready to empty the belt and have it fought by other ranked fighters. Spencer Oliver dissected it by reminding the world that Mauricio Sulaimán was not mistaken on the figures. According to him, the 3% sanctioning money had been in boxing all the time. Crawford had always paid it as any other champion.
The president of the WBC have a point.
Look, the president of WBC, Mauricio Sulaimán, does have a point because historically it's always been 3%. That's what the fighters play, and that is what it is, and that's what it's always been. Obviously, a fight of this magnitude, which was being billed as Fighters of the Century, $50 million allegedly he got paid for that one. They don't want to take 3% off him. They said let's do 0.6%, which is $300,000. So I understand it, and that's just the way the system is. Don't tell me he's not paid the WBC sanction fees before, because he must have.
Oliver said that to make it easier, the WBC even reduced the fee to 0.6, which was approximated to be about $300,000 to enable a fight of such great magnitude, a bout which was hyped as the fight of the century. He emphasized that it was no different or injustice, but simply the system all fighters were working under, and Crawford had been experiencing it many times before.
But now what he's saying is, I don't want to pay that because I want to, the Ring Magazine are the ones that have got it right. The Ring Magazine obviously is one of the most historic belts and considered the #1 of the 4-belt era, the Ring Magazine, but they don't charge. So that's where he's at, and that's the point he's making. But then how did the WBC then make their money if they don't make commissions off? It's like everyone charges for everything. All the other sanctioning bodies would have charged him as well, whatever that was.
Behind the reason, there were a bunch of tensions that were more than a ledger sheet. Even the top level boxers and their managers have been opposing the traditional model of sanctioning bodies. Simon Jordan took the discussion to another level and tore the maths and politics of the situation down. He reasoned that the 0.6% fee was just logical, since it was merely the 3% divided between 5 sanctioning organizations: WBC, WBA, IBF, WBO, and Ring Magazine. Jordan expressed that he had a minimal amount of respect towards WBC and Mauricio Sulaimán, and described the organization as hypocritical and dishonest.
It would appear to me that there's 5 sanctioning bodies, which would have been the WBC, WBA, the IBF, the WBO, and the Ring Magazine. That's why it's 0.6%. Because if you divide 3% by 5, you get 0.6%. I have very little respect for the WBC and the way they operate. I have very little respect for Mauricio Sulaimán. I think they're a hypocritical, disingenuous organisation. But I don't think there's anything fundamentally wrong with what he said there. And if it is indeed the deployment of those funds go to the well-being of fighters, we can't have an industry that constantly talks about the need to look after its own and then when it gets to the top end of the tree, the top end doesn't want to pay it down.
Simon Jordan went on to further break down the organization with even stronger criticism. He claimed the actual issue was the WBC itself by stating the body had long since lost the aspect of integrity and acted the way it wished. He indicated that the WBC would come up with belts whenever it favored them.
Pay it down.
Yeah.
The challenge for me is that this organization with WBC lacks all integrity. It makes up belts when it feels like it because it's a sycophantic organization. It makes up defense charges for fighters, or defenses for fighters about in the Conor Benn situation. It allows fighters to be, champions in recess and denies opportunities. It doesn't enforce mandatories like Dillian White for years and years and years. They're a bunch of hypocrites. So when they start moralizing about the industry, they should get their own house in order. But I don't know why Terence Crawford, he's sucking up to Turkey al-Sheikh there. He's the greatest fighter around this moment.
Jordan then questioned the motives of Crawford, as it would be illogical that a fighter of this caliber was interested in siding with anybody or making such extreme public shots at the WBC. He added, I don't know why Terence Crawford, he's sucking up to Turkey al-Sheikh there. He's the greatest fighter around this moment in time. He doesn't need to, and I don't know why he's taking exception to the WBC. Maybe he thinks all the things I've just said and resists it, or maybe there's some other motivation. The manner this dispute was handled had uncovered cracks in the governing of modern boxing. Sanctioning bodies have been collecting fees and managing rankings over the decades in exchange for titles that provided commercial and reputational significance. Hearn responded to the incident by stating that he did not like seeing two high-profile personalities in the sport fighting in the open. The latter mentioned that both Terence Crawford and Mauricio Sulaimán belong to respected positions in the sphere of boxing, albeit in different ways, and that their disagreement reflected the present atmosphere of the new TKO age.
I didn't like it because I don't like to see, Terence is a legend. He's very important to the world of boxing. And Mauricio Sulaimán is a legend of the world of boxing in different ways, but also very important. So when you get two big names like that beefing, this is a kind of sign of the times with TKO. Terence is part of that kind of crew. And it's like, what he did is a little bit like going out to a restaurant, having all the best caviar and lobsters, and the bill comes and you go, I ain't paying that, and you just walk out.
Eddie Hearn justified that once a fighter decides to compete on the highest level, she have to put up with the rules and fees. Hearn pointed out that the sanctioning body may not have much flexibility in the calculations, but the principle is still the same. In the quest to be declared as an undisputed champion, there is a cost involved, and the cost has to be respected.
Now, you sat down at the table, you wanted to eat all the good stuff, you got to pay your dues and you got to pay your bill. Now, what he will say in answer to that is, yeah, but the bill's too much. It's like, no, the rules are their rules. They can actually inflict a 3% sanction fee across your whole purse. What Maurizio's saying is, no, what we did, it actually worked out at 0.06 or 9 or whatever it was. But Terence is looking at it going, well, it's 300,000. But it does. You wanted the opportunity to call yourself an undisputed champion. Right? That's what was important to you.
Eddie Hearn went ahead to clarify the intricacies of the chase to gain a disputed title, pointing to the need to honor the regulations and duties of every sanctioning entity. He admitted that the process includes negotiation. However, he emphasized the fact that fighters cannot disregard fees or obligations in case they want to win a title legitimately. Hearn also touched on the wider picture of boxing in modern times, where some of the younger generation might not put much importance on the use of the traditional belt.
Which, by the way, is incredible. And like, this is, I don't want to have a pop at Terence because, but I'm just telling you both sides of the argument. For me, if you want to fight for the undisputed championship, you have to abide by the rules of that belt. Now, there's always negotiation. You should let your point go, but you can't leave without paying. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Because it's just not right. You've paraded round the ring with that belt. If you look at his cabinet, it's all the WBC belts there. That belts matter. But this is the era of the new wave of boxing coming in is going to try and fuck all the belts. And they are going to try and kill the WBC, the WBO, the IBF and the WBA and say they're worthless. And as I've said before, I'm doubling down. They are absolutely not worthless. They are the absolute essence of legacy and achievement within the sport.
Eddie Hearn solved the conflict of perception of fighters regarding the cost of the sanctioning fee and the requirements to strive to win a championship. He admitted that the charges are sometimes high and promoters and fighters' ARE course prone to ask about prices. Nevertheless, he made it clear that these titles and legacies of being the undisputed champion come with the price of pursuing them.
Now, do I think that the sanction fees are too high sometimes? Of course, we're always going to think that, aren't we? You know, do I think that, you know, I think our commission rates on big fights are very reasonable to the fighters. To fighters, I'm sure sometimes they think that's too much as well. No one ever really wants to pay the bill, do they? But what you can't do is chase the legacy, chase the undisputed tag, and then say, well, actually, I didn't want that. No, you did. You fought for it already. Do you know what I mean? You can't now say, I'm not paying. Like, ultimately, because what he's saying is, I'm not paying that much. That's their rules, mate.
The Crawford outburst ended the night with the type of fire that fans had not witnessed in years, and the tension between the fighter and the sanctioning body was more substantial than most belts used in the sport. His speech created an image of a hero who is weary of politics and willing to do what is right without having to leave the glory others pursue. And this time around, the world of boxing is waiting anxiously to find out what this confrontation spells for the future of undisputed status. What is your opinion, fight fans? Did Crawford deserve to call out the WBC, or had he gone too far? You liked the breakdown, give it the thumbs up, leave your comments, and subscribe so that you can get more hard-hitting boxing updates on your way.